Alrighty, so before we get started, before we jump into introductions, this is just our quick little intro of time for ads to play for those of you who are just jumping in and have to watch an ad. Thank you for watching, by the way. But nevertheless, welcome to Thursday evening. This is the Car Guy and SIXFAN show. My name is Jason, and I am the car guy of this operation, and my co-host is right down below me.
Grant. So I am a SIXFAN of this operation, or my channel, Straight SIXFAN, here on YouTube. And it's our pleasure then to kind of send it back up to our guest, and we'll let him introduce himself to all of you.
All right. My name is Nick Panaritis. I'm from Nick's Garage. We have a channel on YouTube, and all we do here is build American muscle cars. And this is my passion.
That's right, guys. And if you don't follow Nick, you'll also know that they do a live stream every other Friday night. And they were live, I think, last Friday, so it won't be again till the following. And you can head over there. And usually there's about 1,000 people in the chat at any given time. Before we start this live stream, guys, I want to remind you, you've only got 2 weeks left on my channel that for every $1 spent on the Super Chat gets you an entry into a brand new Forever Sharp steering wheel. Grant has his own giveaway on his channel when we go live over there. But tonight it's for a Forever Sharp steering wheel. And I see we had a few super chats in there already with CP, the Tool Addict, as well as Lucas from Coastal Auto Reaction. I think I saw George throw one in there earlier as well. Nevertheless, we're going to get this show started. Grant, what do you got for Nick?
Well, before we ask Nick our first question, we'll just kind of say hi and hello to the faithful followers who've jumped in. So Roy Marco's Garage, Hammerhead Garage, Darren's Mopar Express, Coastal Auto Reaction. Weird Beard has joined us tonight, another Season 5 guest. CP the Tool Act, as Jason said, with his super chat. Douglas B, and we thank Melissa Nunya for what she does, blasting out links and everything in the chat. K-Rock, the list goes on and on, but we'll lead right into our first question, Nick. And I know so much of what your channel is about is basically time spent on the engine dyno. And I'm guessing in an engine dyno, I obviously don't own one, but once you've owned one for a period of time, you probably kind of know its ins and outs, kind of how it ticks and its little nuances. So what I'm curious about is, with all of the dyno seat time you've had now, when a small block Mopar rolls in, let's just say a 318, and it's got a certain combination of heads and intake, do you feel like you can almost anticipate power curves at this point?
In many cases, yes, I could. First of all, let me say something that I forgot to say before that. I also wanted to say that I'm from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, for those people who don't know that. And yes, playing with a dyno with so many different engines after so many years, client may bring an engine in, and I could take a fast look. Sometimes just by the surroundings, you could tell, like sometimes a guy could bring a small block and he brings a big Dominator carburetor for it. Like you could tell like the combination is wrong. Is this thing going to make power? You know, you throw in some wild guesses. Sometimes we guess right, sometimes we don't. But then you have other clients that come in and they're very, like, for example, let me just say a client brings in an engine and he just wants to dyno test it. He brings it to me, and I see what he has as accessories, how he set it up. I ask him what cam specs and this and that. And you could tell that this guy knew what he was doing. And then we were looking at, for example, big block Chevy, and his goal was 600 horsepower. Just by looking at the setup, you have a good idea that he's going to do that kind of horsepower. Then you have other guys that bring in, they're looking for 600 horsepower. It's a small block. They got a puny 650 carburetor, single plane, a dual plane intake manifold, and this guy's aiming for 600. And I'm telling you guys, are you sure you're aiming for 600 with this little thing? It ain't gonna work. So it's yes or no. You could hit, you could get a good guess that yes, if it's got a good engine, it's what power it's gonna make, or it's not.
And I think there's a lot of people out there too that really do have that misconception of what horsepower expectations should be based on a certain vehicle. I'm sad to say I'm probably one of those guys. When I built the 360 for my Chrysler Cordoba, I thought for sure I would have no problem hitting that 300 horsepower mark. And when I took it to an actual chassis dyno and I pulled 219, I walked away with my tail between my legs, thinking, you know, that I've spent all this time and effort and money on trying to make this thing, you know, brag-worthy numbers. So what is it that's going to make horsepower on a budget? What should people be looking for?
Well, first of all, when you start with an engine, let's say you start with an engine that you're starting from the beginning to build it, you have to look for good compression, and the number one thing, good flowing cylinder heads. And, some people like the poured out heads, and velocity. Cylinder heads work with velocity and of course volume of air, which is the most important thing, because an engine is an air pump. The more air you get in there, the more you can compress it, the more power you make. So it's all of a package. You gotta have everything perfect. You gotta have the right compression, a good cylinder head, good breathing numbers, velocity, a good intake manifold, and the right size carburetor, and a cam that works with the cylinder heads. So when you have all this package working perfect, this is where you max out your power with the size of engine you have.
After all the years of, with all this experience working through the different combinations, Nick, what's been your most rewarding, exercise? We'll say, like, what we'll call it, just like one trick pony. What was the you change one thing, and then all of a sudden it's like night and day difference on the engine dyno.
What I've done once on there's a few things I've done. I've changed once intake manifolds, carburetors. What was the biggest thing? Cylinder heads. That I remember doing a 440 once with the what kind of heads were there? I don't know what type of aluminum heads they were, and they were nope, sorry, let's go to a better one. I had a guy who brought in a big block Chevy, and it was a stroked out 498 cubic inch, if I remember, the one that came from California. It was so humongous, and this guy was expecting over 600 horsepower. We put it on the dyno, and we only got 400. And I told the guy, I get 450, 460 horsepower on a basic stock 454. This guy brings me 496, and we had a hard time getting 400 horsepower. Now, everything was good, but when I took those heads off and I saw those big ports, and I said, man, this is crazy. And I told him, you know what, get the right size, a good set of heads. Don't port them, don't do nothing. And what did he buy? I don't remember what he bought. This is many years ago down at the old shop. We just changed the cylinder heads, and he gained over 150 horsepower just on that. And we got into almost 640, 630 horsepower. He had all the right combination except for the cylinder heads. He took them and he poured them out so big, meaning because it's a stroker, he had a big roller cam. But I told him the cylinder head did not have the right flow, didn't have the velocity to make the power for this engine. We went with the same carburetor, same intake. All we did was change the cylinder heads. And that was a big difference. So,
Nick, before I ask my question, I want to say very nice shirt you're wearing there tonight. I really like that.
It's all about Jason. Old car guy.
And that's an OG shirt too. That's one of my originals before I changed my name and logo. So that is a great looking shirt. Thanks for wearing that tonight.
So it's a classic. OCG.
It's a classic. It's worth more money now.
It's a pre-OCG shirt.
Throwback,
yeah. Nick, before we went on air, we were telling a few stories about racing, and
Yes.
You started off by telling us a little bit about where you came from and where the whole passion came from. Why don't you tell our viewers who may not know what got Nick into cars?
Well, it started with the oily man. My neighbor, my parents' house back in 68, 69. I was 13, 12 years old. And my neighbor, I called him Ladia man, meaning oily man, because he had a coverall. It was always oily. He always had rags that were oily. Hands were always oily. And he was right next to my parents' houses. And I used to go out, and he was working on his Envoy and a Vauxhall, British cars. And he was always working on them, little simple 4 cylinders. And I used to ask him a lot of questions, and he was always answering me. And I used to go in there and help him once in a while. And he had logs of wood to hold up the car. Didn't have car stands. This is back in the late 60s. I was only a kid. And I was looking at him putting things together. And then I see him then he puts the car down. He puts oil in the motor. Then I just see him turn the key. And then the thing ran on its own. I go, wow, look at it. He just turned the key. It went like this. The fan turned. The engine ran on its own. Got out of the car. I go, okay, so what makes this thing run? So then I got into a lot of detailed questions with this guy. Then he starts telling me this and that, and compression and spark, ignition, in and out. And I got so fascinated with it. I go, you know what? This is awesome, man. So And from there on, that's where I took the passion of loving the typical gasoline engine. And then and then after that, back in the same alley, which my parents had a double garage right next door, I started working on friends' cars. That's when I first bought my first car, 1973 Duster, which I bought brand new with my dad. And I started to tinker with it, even though it was good. I just used to clean things underneath the hood, after so many miles, just tinker with it. Then my neighbor had a problem with the car. I would look at it. Then my friend buys a muscle car. Then we got into a lot of things, and people think just because I had all the answers to all the questions, meaning you can build this anything you can. But sometimes a hands-on experience is the most knowledgeable way of working with things. Like you can know the answer, but if you work with your hands and fix the issue, and that's where it all started in the back alley of my mother's house.
Well, you talk about your experience with your neighbor, the oily man with the British cars. So we've had guests on previously. They talk about maybe they fell in love with locomotives at a young age, or toy trains, and for me it was tractors. So I think our gateway drug into the motorhead world is always a little bit different. But like you said, it's the experience that is what the hands-on experience is just invaluable. So I guess I'll ask a question, selfish question for myself, since I kind of don't have the experience. You made it to age 35, and I'm, doing a lot of things on my own for the first time. And so what I really struggle with is fear. Oftentimes, is like I think I know what the problem is, but I really have no reason to know why that would be true or not. And so you don't want to just throw money at parts to try to fix a problem. How would you give advice to one who maybe needs to overcome some fear when it comes to learning and trying new things?
Well, sometimes you could have an engine or a car come in and you try to figure out something. And I learn new things every day. You don't have the answer to everything sometimes. For example, a car could come in, it's fuel injected. I don't have too much knowledge on fuel injection. And, I'm just being honest with everybody, what I can do, what I don't know, what I do know. I have a Vasily who works with the EFI. And do I have the fear of checking things? One thing I don't like doing is sometimes change this part, maybe it's that. Or change this part, maybe it's that. It's a parts changer. First of all, you have to see, what's causing the problem. What could be related to what sensor could cause this problem? Or does he have a simple thing like, I had experience with another guy a long time ago. He had a car, it was running fine. All he did was wash the engine in the wintertime. And man, let me tell you, that day when he washed that engine and then took it out for a drive and it stalled on him, you couldn't get it started for no matter what he did. And that was a difficult one. We had to change a few sensors to figure out the thing, and we got it going, but it took us a lot of time. And thank God that the customer says, Nick, we'll gamble on everything because, sometimes I don't know everything. And we took a few chances on a few pieces. We ended up changing like 3 pieces for nothing, 3 parts for nothing. And then on the 4th piece we changed, it was the problem with the vehicle, and then we got it going. One thing we learned for sure is when it comes to wintertime, don't wash engines, you guys. Just let it be dirty. It works. And back to your question, like, do we have the fear of changing pieces? I like to only change pieces if I know exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes you have to know exactly what's going on. You got to study like a doctor. You go in, you have blood tests, you look at your heartbeat, you look at everything, so you can punch it down to determine exactly what it is. Some people, they just give you the answer over the phone. Yeah, it's this or that. That's not the correct way. Like people, I've got a lot of emails or comments. They told me, Nick, I drive a Dodge Dakota 92 and it stalls on me once in a while. I can't answer that. I need a vehicle in front of me so I can look at simple things. Is it a fuel issue problem? Is it a vacuum leak? Is it a spark problem? I don't know. But you have to look at something physically, look at it, and know every system, what each part does. That's all I can say.
Well, and to kind of trail upon that too is, a lot of diagnostics comes right from here. It's, it comes from experience. You've run into this problem before, and this is what I did to fix it. So let's try this. And YouTube, when you're putting it on YouTube for the whole world to see, everyone's a mechanic all of a sudden, and they know everything that you didn't do or you should have done or this or that. I know that you've been doing this for a long time, but only over the last 4 years you've been sharing your experiences with your fan base, and which has grown significantly over the last 4 years. Tell us a little bit about what led to bringing Nick's Garage to everybody on YouTube.
Oh, that I gotta give the credit to George. George, my camera guy. Actually, I call him Panavision. He does everything on his own. Well, I noticed that one time, well, back at the old shop, I worked with a lot of old cars. I didn't know George then. And I remember when he walked by one day and he walked in, he goes, do you work on regular cars? I said, well, I do. Once in a while, I work on regular cars. I work on muscle cars, classic cars, whatever you want to call it. And he was fascinated. Just like I have the same pass with these old cars also. You had the Jimmy, right? Am I correct?
I think it started with the 64 Bel Air.
64 Bel Air, that's right. We haven't seen it lately. You're so busy. Anyways, so this is when George, I noticed that he does videos, commercials with the studio that he worked with, and he asked me, do you want to try something? It all started with your boss first. You wanted to do something for Discovery Channel. But I don't know what happened with that. Nothing went with it. But then George comes to me after and goes, Nick, you know what? You do a lot of things. A lot of people want to see what you do. They like what you do. For example, you saw it in my shop. I could be working on something, and George is there over behind me watching. And people, customers, always ask the question, why you do this? Why is it like that? Why isn't that working? So they get fascinated. And he goes, why don't you share that with the world? He goes, why don't we just do a few videos on YouTube, see how it goes? And then we let it go, and that's how we went with it. So I have to give a big thanks to George on that.
Thank you, sir.
So I've been reading this book. It's called Primal Branding. In fact, I just wrapped it up, and they talk about the importance of having things like icons associated with your brand or rituals. And so when I think about Nick's Garage, it's hard not to think of all of the flags you have hanging in the shop from all over. So how did that start, and how did it spiral out of control?
Okay, this is how it happened. I had the 3 official flags in the back. I had the Canadian flag because I'm a Canadian. I also had the American flag because it's all about American muscle cars. And then I had my roots, which was the Greek flag, all hanging in the back of the shop. Then we started making videos, this and that. And then one day I got a comment from a guy, I think it was Sean, if I remember, someone from Australia. Says, Nick, if we send you the flag of Australia, would you put it up in your shop? So I asked one question. I replied back and I said, why? I just wanted to know why. Then he throws me back the answer and tells me, Nick, there is a lot of people in Australia, car clubs, car people. They have the same passion like you that watch you. And I go, wow, I can't go wrong with that. You know, like they all love you. They all watch you. And I said, you know what, you guys, send me the flag and I'll be more than proud to put it up in my shop. So when that flag came in, as we saw, we do mail time. I got the flag. I showed it on mail time to everybody. This is from, I believe it was Sean from Australia. And I take the flag, open the package. I thank him. I put his name, his first name on the flag, and then I hang it up in the shop. And then, how did the second one come by?
I think Jason was number 3. I can't remember.
Yeah, New Brunswick. Yes. So then, after that, it just became a dominoes effect, one after the other. And, you know, now they're just piling up. And right now, in my office, I got another 32 flags to put up, which I still didn't have the chance to put up.
You don't have the lift.
I need a scissor lift. I'm getting crowded. I got too many cars in the shop. I got to move cars to get up there. I use the ladder sometimes to go all the way to the top. People are telling me, man, you're crazy. It's dangerous. You go that high up, 15 feet, 16 feet. Anyways, I try to do the best I can. And they're still coming in. What can you do, man? And I have to put them up. You know, after all, they send them from around the world, you know, because of you. And the best part is when people come in my shop. Now, maybe I don't notice this, but they come in and they're visitors from anywhere in Canada, USA, or I should say Norway, Denmark, the UK. I mean, from everywhere. And they're walking to my shop and say, hey, we came to see your shop. I just told them, you guys, it's just a regular shop, or it's a workshop for fixing cars. And then they tell me, you know what? In your eyes, it looks like a regular shop. But when you come in here and you see all these classic cars and all these flags hanging in your shop that come from around the world, because people are watching you on YouTube, man, it's not an ordinary shop. So there you go.
So we've got a few more entries in there. All 3 of them coming from Coastal Auto Reaction, and I'm about to cut those guys off. But
Yeah, I think he's emptying out the bank account tonight.
I think so.
Luke, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It's all about community, buddy. No competition. It's all about community. This is all the YouTubers working together as a team and to get together as one big happy family. And it's right here. There you guys. If everybody wants to see it, there it is.
Yeah, and that's a
And
great segue again into exactly what it is that we're doing here with this show, and it's bringing guests to our viewers who may or may not know who our guest is. I mean, obviously, someone like Nick's Garage, who's got almost 200,000 subscribers, coming to do a show like ours, and kind of spreading that word, helping each other out and doing what it is that we do here. Just so that you guys know, if you're just coming in, anytime that you do give a super chat, every dollar goes towards an entry to win a Forever Sharp steering wheel. So you see Big Easy throwing money away like it's candy. His name is going into this draw as well. So make sure that you guys have an opportunity to do that. We're drawing for that in just a few weeks. So Nick, one thing that I can remember about my trip to Montreal when I picked up those J heads for my 360 was that when I first walked in the door, essentially you had no clue who I was, but you greeted me with open arms and you treated me like I was family when I walked in there. So thank you for doing that. But I don't feel so special anymore because I see you do it with everybody that walks in the door.
What you just said, a lot of visitors tell me that. Visitors, like local people, visitors from out of town, for any part of the world, they come in, and I guess I'm known for hospitality. I treat everybody equal. Like it's for someone to come into your shop and you don't know them. You always greet them with your best, hello, how you doing? I don't know if they're there to see me. They're here to have a car fixed. I'm equal with everybody. And like you got the same greetings when you came to my shop. I'm like that with everyone that comes in, and that's who I am. That's who I am. I remember a couple that came in from London, Ontario, and they walked into my shop and they had cameras. They both the husband and wife had cameras hanging, and I knew these guys were visitors. They were not there for car repairs. They walked into my shop and says, "Hi, Nick, we came to see your shop." And I go, "Well, I was only here. It's just a shop fixing cars." And she's the one that told me, he says, "Nick, when you have a shop full of flags and all these nice cars, it ain't no ordinary shop." And then I didn't know what to say. And then she asked if she could have pictures taken in the shop. I give everybody full permission to take pictures all they want, videos in the shop. I share everything with them. They look at my wall of fame. I tell them what I've done. There's so much history I've done for 45 years. There's so much to say. But, there's a lot of things I do remember. There's a lot of things I do not remember. I've got a lot of things I've done in my past. And they come into the shop. If I'm dyno testing an engine, I would take them in a dyno room. I said, "You guys, you ever seen a live dyno test?" And they would everybody would say yes. I would put them in the dyno room, sit on my left-hand side, and do action. And it's just fascinating when I treat them like that, and I love it. I just love it. I treat them all of that, and I give them the best I can.
Well, some more super chats are rolling in. So Roy Marco's Garage. We had one from King Eric, the greatest of all, who wants to let almost everybody here know, between Nick, Luke, Uncle Bobo, Nick, yourself, Jason, and me, says thanks. And so, Eric, we thank you as well, just because you're one of the, I don't know that you've missed a single episode of the Car Guy and SIXFAN show, which is saying something, because there were some brutal ones there once upon a time. And then earlier, Sean from Novotaz, I have to, whether he meant to or not, Grammar Police, he wrote, "He came in like a reeking ball," so I don't know if you meant that, but sweet.
There were a couple of other super chats a little earlier that you missed too, guys. Pony 1992 with $5, a little support for you guys.
George
and
is
prior
quick.
to that, there was also Simon Marceau-Roy with a question: "What's the best oil for a 340 cubic inch Dodge 1972?
It all depends. You could use a thicker oil when you got a lot of bearing clearance. You got thin clearance, you go to thinner oil. So you're going to be on the safe side, just use 10W30, you can't go wrong. And of course, it's a flat tappet cam. Get zinc oil, zinc additive, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's one of those new things I learned with building my Fairmont. I had never heard of that at all. Like that wasn't on my radar, but I'm just fortunate that I learned it when I did, because I hadn't bought oil for my post head swap opportunities. And so, yeah, that's, people my age and younger, like that wouldn't register. You just go to the parts store usually and just buy oil. But yeah, flat tappet cams require that zinc. So, Nick, when we reflect back on this crazy journey that you've had with the YouTube side of things, maybe this is more of a George question, I don't know, but one of the things we like to do here on the Car Guy and SIXFAN show is help just kind of pass along advice from the YouTube side of things. A lot of the people in the chat have their own channels, automotive based. So, what's maybe one thing you wish you would have learned sooner when it comes to the YouTube side of things?
Well, one thing we got here with George is whatever we film is exactly what we film. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. If we did something correct, if we did some mistakes, we'll admit it. We'll leave it on camera. And what George wants, and so myself, is the truth. All real, nothing made up, nothing fake, and it is what it is. And he told me, just be down to earth, be yourself, and this is what people like. It's not like a script TV show that you're told what to say. I say what I want to say. And what I think, if something's good or bad, I'll say what I think of it. And that's how we kept our show on forever and ever. And we did good with that, and I'll stick with it. And
even if it's pronouncing words like Edelbrock wrong, right? We just say it and we do it. We get over it. No big deal.
Yeah. Sometimes I got some issues talking with some words in English. Like, I know it's Edelbrock, not Elderbrock, but I notice some guys that really, that's one thing about YouTube. You can always back it up, stop it, zoom it, and listen closely. So you cannot make a mistake how you look or what you say. So it's got to be perfect. But George just lets it out. That's where you said it. Just let it be.
And now we have a T-shirt with it on it.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Yeah. I was just going to say, he's even got a T-shirt on his store there. You guys can go buy the. I can't even say it wrong. Elderbrock. So we are getting close. Believe it or not, we're getting close to the end of this end of our show. But we do want to open up a few opportunities. I know that there's going to be a lot, but we want to open up a few opportunities for some questions coming from the chat. But while we do that, maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of lead into some of the things that might be coming up on your channel that you can share with us. So, Nick, do you have something that's coming up on Nick's Garage on the next video, maybe, that people can look forward to?
Apparently, it's going to be another 440 on the dyno.
Surprise!
Rogers engine next.
Sorry, Rogers. I got a 440 coming up on a dyno. It's going to be a 440 that someone else built. The man who's painting the Charger 500 for Eugene from Texas. He's got an engine that he built. He's also mechanic inclined. He built an engine with the same pistons. We put on a cylinder set of heads, closed chamber, because it's a very low compression motor. It has a cylinder pressure of 125. And he just wanted to put on the dyno and see if it leaks oil. He didn't care about power. So he said, let's put on the dyno and see how it goes. He wanted to see oil leaks. He wanted to see what kind of power. Let's try it out for fun. He had his exhaust manifolds with what came in a 72 police package Dodge Polora. So he brought his own carburetor that he had sitting on the shelf for 10 years. He says, Nick, don't try nothing. Just try my carburetor. Don't worry about it. So we put it on. It was dry. We had to change a couple of things. We got it done. We got it working. And that was it. And it didn't leak oil. He was happy. And that's all he wanted to know. So that will be coming up on Monday, on Monday's video, which is the lowest compression engine 440 I had on my dyno. Wow. And you guys got to say, you guys tell me what you think of it.
Yeah, that's funny. That's interesting. The Engine Master guys, I don't know my Canadian engine builders out there, but Nick, I feel like you're basically the go-to Canadian version of Engine Masters. And they always talk about the RV 440 or motorhome 440. So I think that's really interesting. Hey, let's just throw it on there, see what happens, and put very little effort into what it is, and then we'll start from there. So I think that sounds really entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I remember once that my brother and I, we enrolled to Engine Masters in, I believe that time was Ohio, someplace in Ohio. It was 15, 16 years ago. And they were taking the top 15 teams from across Canada and USA. And they take the top 15. And we were number 18. And you got a year to build an engine, test it to their limits of what you can build the engine with, cubic inch or what type of cams and whatever. Build it. And they picked the first 15 people, the teams, as you say, to get done with their engines. And then within a year, after you're ready to go, they call you in, which is, I think, it's 11th or 12th month. You come in and you bring the engine to the Engine Master Challenge on their dynos, and then you compete with everybody else. And so we weren't chosen. We were number 18. So the test was going on. If I remember, the finalization was in September, October, November, sometime I believe in November. But some people broke down or didn't go well. Then they called us in late September that you guys are entering in the Engine Masters. And my brother and I were looking at each other and go, you guys, we only have 2.5 months to build an engine and start from scratch. You know, we wanted to put a lot of time. We needed a year to work with something new. We had a 5.7 Hemi late model engine that we wanted to work with. But then when they gave us the note that you guys could come in, it's too late. You know, 2 months. I would have loved to be there. Let me tell you. Not only maybe you could win or lose, whatever, but you meet a lot of great people with a lot of knowledge. That was the most important thing to me. You go there, and let me tell you, when you compete with top guns like that, you learn a lot, and that was my goal. But we didn't get chosen in the first 15, so we didn't show up. That would have been one of my dreams to do.
So we had a few more super chats come in there. We had stuff with Cletus, Mike J, Sobering Restoration, and once again, Uncle Bobo. CP Tool Addict. Guys, thank you so much for donating to the channel. And once again, your name will be entered into the draw for the Forever Sharp steering wheel. Grant, why don't you tell us what's up and coming on Straight Six Fan for the next episode?
I wish I knew. We're fighting some carburetor issues on the Holly. I think I have it down to the, I believe it's needle and seat. I don't think the float's hung up. I've got it kind of taken off and taken apart, but we'll see. We'll see where we go from there. But I need to get caught up on some shout outs. We got a lot of stickers coming in the mail. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the next episode's going to be about, but something like that. Jason, yourself?
Well, we've got a video coming out. You guys all know that we've got some new exhaust going on Project Dale the truck. And I've got some headers that we're going to be putting on that as well. So the next episode coming out tomorrow night is how I coated them to protect them, and with a clear coat. So I know there was a lot of information out there on the internet. There wasn't anything that was specific to clear coating. So I did my own video, and I said, well, what an opportunity. So we got that video coming out tomorrow, and hopefully it's something that will live long on the YouTube platform. So we did have a question come in, and it's from Will's Wheels. I'm going to flash it up on the screen. And Nick, he's asking, what's the highest horsepower engine ever dynoed? With you, I would say, is what he's getting at. Okay.
One that I built or one that was brought in? Anyways, let's just I'll mention both of them. The one I built was a 528 Hemi, which George had video on that 13 years ago. Yeah. It was a 528 Hemi that pulled out 830 horsepower. I don't remember the torque numbers. Then there's another friend of mine who has a dragster engine with a 500 plus cubic inch that he's brought and runs an alcohol. And we had, I think, 1,012 horsepower.
That was 1,007 because his racing number is 007.
That's right, 007. 1,007 horsepower. Those are the two top engines on my dyno that I've experienced.
So loud.
And it was loud, let me tell you. Very loud.
There was another question that came in to us from Bandit I don't know if I'm saying that or Bandit. How he wants it. But yeah, so he was asking what's the best set of, and I'm sure this depends on a lot of things, but he was just simply asking what is the best set of heads one could put on a 440.
Well, I like working with trick flow on that. Right now, I'm looking for a set for Eugene's 440 so we can get going building this engine. And matter of fact, they're all sold out. I'm looking at a lot of locations with Eugene and my brother. Nobody has them in stock. We just found one cylinder head, but I need a pair. And yes, if you go with a 440, I like to go with trick flow. They work fine. They got the right flow, the right numbers, and it's the right package. And everything bolts right in, rockers, anything you wish.
You're muted there, Jason.
Sorry?
Dang it. I do that like every freaking show. You think I figure that out by now?
And then you get mad when I cut you off at the end. You right? Cut yourself off.
I do it all the time. Mortsky Repair has $25 coming in. I appreciate that, Tom. And thank you for making your announcement that you ran out of gas on the way here. As we scroll through, I don't see anything jumping right out at me for questions.
There was one from Coastal Auto Reaction asking if a motor has ever exploded on the dyno, and I don't know that.
No, I've had it for 20 years. I've never had an engine explode on the dyno, but I had one 340 that someone wanted to practice with nitrous oxide. I remember it was a guy who used to race on the track. He brought in a 340 engine, and he wanted to try how much nitrous this engine could take. So you know what? We started working with it. We added a 100 horsepower kit. If I remember correctly, we added a 100 horsepower kit. We hit the switch, full throttle, or should I say full throttle, hit the switch. We ended up like 80, 85 horsepower. Then we went to a 150 setup. We did it again. We got, I think, if I remember, close to 130. Then nothing happened. Everything went well. Then he says, let's try a 200 horsepower shot of nitrous, 200. So we went full throttle, hit the switch as the RPM was going up. The next thing I knew is that the dipstick flew out, the head gaskets got blown out, oil all over my an antifreeze or coolant or water from the dyno just came out, splattering from the head gaskets and the dipstick. And that's the biggest, massive mess I ever had in my dyno with 20 years working with it. Yeah, poor 340. Then we took off the cylinder heads, replaced the head gaskets, and that's the only damage it had. Put it back together, got it running again, and now this client knew that he only could use his 150 shot of nitrous on this engine.
That's one way to find out.
That's one way to find out, that's for sure.
Darren's Mopar Express had asked, Nick, what does your family think of your YouTube channel?
Well, my family loves it because I go home every night, read comments, so I'm not in their way at all. No, they love it. They love it. I cannot argue with that because they ask me questions. They always see me going with it. It always gives me something to do when I come home. Always keeps you thinking. But no, they're with me on this YouTube. Matter of fact, they watch themselves a lot on YouTube also. So it's good. It's a good thing, and they like it. I can't argue with that.
And Bandit has asked me to say hi to you from him. So I'm just saying hello from Bandit.
Bandit, I read a lot of your comments. Let me tell you on my on our channel. Let me say it.
Everyone loves the Bandit.
Everybody loves the Bandit. That's for sure.
So Nick, I've got one more question. I just want to kind of pop in here. I see somebody asking about the Cougar. I know it gets asked on your channel quite a bit, and I know that we said we weren't going to ask you anything that you didn't want to answer. So if you don't want to talk about that, that's fine.
I'm
but
do it.
Tell us what the hell is going on with this Cougar.
You know, we had a struggle to get the car out of storage. Well, from where we picked it up, we brought it here, and I knew this wasn't going to go well. I brought the car. First of all, when you go pick up a car, you know someone's coming to pick up that car that particular night. And, you know, at least do something, put air in the tires, take the car, put it on the floor, don't leave it on the stands. The car was covered with boxes and everything, but it doesn't matter. I went down with Nick with the towing, I went down with Manny, and we tried to clear everything up, push the car out. We did that. We had a hard time. We got on the tow truck and shipped it to my shop. Then I told the client, I'm going to put it on the lift, come by any day you can, so we get to go through the car and see what you want to do with it. So I had this car on my lift for 2 weeks in a working shop, and it did not show up until I called him. I told him, I've got your car here. Are you going to come by and see what we're going to do with it? You know, it's a working shop. And I told my friend who knows the family very well, I told him, buddy, you want to get the family over here and tell me what's going to happen? So eventually they came the weekend after, which was almost 2.5 weeks. They came, they looked at it. There were 4 people in the family. They had a discussion. Go all the way, fix it. Don't go all the way. Fix it with a small budget. It's not going to be safe. So it was really difficult. So I noticed that the family didn't have an answer. So I told them, you guys, listen, I'll park the car out in the back until you guys decide what you want to do. So eventually, that's what we did. We parked the car in the back. I replaced the front tires so we could start rolling it around. I parked it out in the back. Until this day, right now, I have not heard from them. Until this morning, I told the relative that knows the family to, I told them that, you know what, the towing wasn't paid for, the storage is not paid for, so let's get going on this Cougar, because from what I see, I don't think this family was interested in fixing this car. So then I gave up. I said, you know, I need this space in the back of my shop. Please, I need an answer right now, or come and pick it up. So eventually, they are coming this Saturday to pick it up. That's the story on the Cougar.
I think that's going to be the end of the Cougar.
I believe so. You know, it is a nice car. It's a rare piece, but it's kind of on the rough side of it. It needs a lot of loving, tender care, and it takes money to fix it. So we'll see what happens till next week when they come by. Okay. Who knows?
I see there's probably at least 3 questions worth asking here, but Coastal Auto Reaction has one, but he's got a lot in already, so we'll start with the one that I think is the most interesting, and just Redneck Rider 69 was asking just for recommendations on new channels to check out, whether car related or not. I mean, I'll say just real quick, I'll answer that question. When we did Solo B-Roll Challenge 2021, Ingenuity is a channel, and it's spelled, like engine, E-N-G-I, Ingenuity, but with an E. That guy just has, I think he's going to blow up. He's just got a real knack at being behind the camera. So that would be my vote. Nick, do you have any channel? We'll kind of go around the horn. Do you have any recommendations for new channels that you've come across?
Well, I'm on.
You don't have time to watch, do you?
That's true. I go home and I spend a lot of time reading my emails, reading comments from around the world. It's not easy. And what I've learned, what I'm gonna say is that I'm an old school guy, and I like watching a lot of videos or films black and white, which I started a couple of months ago when I get a chance to, around midnight at night. I like the old school, how cars were built. I look at all the history of GM, Ford, Chrysler, American Motors, how they took a sheet metal, a roll of sheet metal, brought it into the shop, how they cut it, they stamp it, how they designed it, how they engineered it. This is what fascinates me. And you don't see that on television. You only see this on YouTube. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of good channels on YouTube. Do I know anyone in particular? No. I love them all. I have to admit. Some of them are very knowledgeable. They're educational. They're good stuff. And do I have any favorites? I have a few. There's too many to mention, actually. But after all, it's great. YouTube is great. That's all I can say, you guys. That's all I can say.
Well, I think one thing that I can say to answer that question simply is that if you guys aren't following myself, Grant, Nick's Garage, Coastal Auto Reaction, these guys, if you're not following them on Instagram, that's the place that you're going to find new, potentially up and coming YouTube channels, because we're sharing those out. We find something that we like, we share it out with you guys so that you can go kind of follow them. And if it's something you like, consider subscribing to them. If it's not your cup of tea, then it's no harm, no foul. But Instagram is a great platform to find kind of some of that stuff that we do like to share out. There is one question that I did see come through the chat that I've often asked this myself, and I think it deserves an answer. We'll call this the last question of the night, and then we'll get ready to kind of wrap up. It's how does Luke from Coastal Auto Reaction asks, how does a 340 make 400 horsepower, but yet a 440 big block only makes 400 horsepower?
Well, a 340 to make 400 horsepower, it has to be tweaked. So let me tell you, it's not factory. A basic stock 440 can make 400 horsepower very easy. But a 340, like we've done with the one from Rob from London, Ontario, we had to put a cam in it, not a stock cam, more lift than usual. Those engines come with a 470 lift or something. We had a 520 lift cam on that. We brought up the compression to 10.6, 10.7. We had a good breathing heads from Edelbrock with a nice intake manifold, with a nice good carburetor, and we came up to 400 horsepower. So it's not exactly factory. We didn't use cast iron heads, and we did pretty good with it. But have you seen the one we built last year with the 340 cast iron heads? We were looking for 1 horsepower per cubic inch, and we did with that on Steve's 340 from Toronto. So, building a 400 horsepower 340, it's not going to be factory. That's for sure. Unless you're a stalker from NHRA that uses all this technology with cast iron heads, with a stock cam lift, with any duration you want, with the compression ratio, whatever NHRA rules are. Those guys are good. That's the 340 will make 400 horsepower with the cast iron heads. But what we have here is simple aluminum heads, simple 400, and let's go.
I'll let one last question slide in as well from the chat, just since you did, Jason. I'm going to one-up you. Penny's Hot Rods and Customs was asking if any AMCs on the engine dyno at Nick's Garage over the course.
I had one many, many years ago. It's I believe it was a 69 AMX 401 fixed up for racing only. That was a way, way, way long time ago. It was just about 500 plus horsepower, and it belonged to a good friend of mine, and he used to race at the racetrack all the time. It was a 69 AMX, and it was a great little motor. Let me tell you, great looking car, and I have a picture of it right above the sink here in the shop. But do I have any right now lining up in my shop? Nothing really, nothing in AMC. I wish I did. And one engine I'd like to get in here and try it for a lot of viewers are asking is the 426 Max wedge with the 2 Harley carburetors cross ran or the 2 cars, whatever. That was something I'd love to put. Like a lot of people, they make comments on saying, Nick, why don't you try that? Try this, try that. It's, I'm playing with real customers' engines. It's not like I have an engine with every little different cams, different headers, different heads, different carburetor. It's a lot of time consuming, a lot of money. So I'm playing with real customers' engine, and I work with what I have and what the customer's budget is. So I work with that.
And I see Dustin in the comments says 1 horsepower per cubic inch. Yeah, Dustin, we're not talking Toyota Celicas here, okay? So just let's get away from that. That's going to be it for our show. So before I turn everything over to Grant to kind of close us out, thank you everybody in the chat for being here and donating the super chats for your entry into the Forever Sharp steering wheel. We're going to be drawing both prizes, mine as well as Grant's, on the 22nd of April. And Nick and George, thank you guys for making time on this Thursday evening, for being a part of our channel, and being a part of the show. We really appreciate you guys being here. And next week, we're going back over to Grant's channel because this is a collaborative effort. And we have a guest coming up who is Ellie's Garage. Her and her father are going to be a part of the show next week. So I hope you guys can tune in for that. I'm going to sign off and say thank you, everyone. And Grant, you can close us out.
Yeah, thanks again. Special thanks to you, George and Nick, for making this happen. And I think I speak for the chat. Everybody seemed to enjoy it, and I saw a lot of I love yous, Nick. And Nick, you're the best. And so you certainly bring. I guess your big heart is reflected in the fans as well.
I also wanted to thank Jason for mentioning the YouTube channels, which I didn't mention when we were talking about which YouTube channels you want to watch. Like he was mentioned before, OCG, SIXFAN, even Lunar Outlaws, a whole bunch of us. And of course, Coastal Auto Reaction, Luke, he's all over the place. Good for you, Luke. Okay, and I wanted to thank you for mentioning them. Thank you. And it was always a pleasure for having me on your show, you guys. Thank you very much.
No problem. Well, as Jason said, it is a joint collaboration. So yes, it's on my channel next week. So you'll have to be subscribed to me. Same time though, 7 p.m. Central. And I guess while I have a Mopar crowd, if you really want a Slant 6 shirt, I sell those in my spreadsheet short store. So why don't you go pick up one of those? But anyway,
the Leaning Tower.
Yes, yes. I call it the 3060s 198 shirt, like a 30-60-90 triangle. It's a 30-degree slant and debuted in the 60s. And then, of course, the 198 was one of the 3 cubic inches. But anyway, enough about that. That's going to do it for this episode. So until next time,